You are listening to the audio portion of the QB Power Hour webinar series. The QB Power Hour is a free biweekly webinar series for accounting professionals presented by Michelle Long and Dan DeLong, who are very passionate about the industry, QuickBooks, and apps that integrate with QuickBooks. You can find out all the details about the webinar series at qbpowerhour.com. So without further ado, here's Michelle and Dan. And welcome to another QB Power Hour. I'm so used to Michelle saying all this stuff, so and I've got my webinar sometimes mixed up. So we're going to be doing a QB Power Hour, and hopefully everybody's got all 10 fingers from the follow up of the Independence Day yesterday. Yeah. I was watching a lot of the fireworks on the TV because in Maine there's not a whole lot of fireworks to go off up here. I mean, there was some spectacular displays yesterday or last night. But today we're going to be talking about making cheddar when Intuit moves the cheese, and we'll talk about moving the cheese and what that actually means a little bit later. But thanks for joining us here today. Of course, Michelle needs no introduction. She's the owner of Long for Success, an international speaker and with the Intuit Trainer Writer Network, and author of 5 books available on Amazon. Myself, I'm your co-host, Dan DeLong, over on our Danwith. Worked at Intuit for about 18 years. So I have a unique perspective on both sides of the Intuit badge here when we're talking about some of the changes that Intuit has made. And our special guest today is Carrie Kahn. Carrie, you want to introduce yourself?
Hey, yes, I'm Carrie Kahn, the owner of Complete Business Group, and I have a big partner program where we have a lot of discussions that we're going to talk about today. People that are ProAdvisors trying to earn some extra money and recommend products that we already know and love that are all QuickBooks and why we all know each other. And you can see I've got a bunch of badges. I hate tooting my own horn, but I know a lot of these folks from being in the Intuit world for about 30 years and just love and support QuickBooks like we can. And Dan and I together do our School of Bookkeeping.
Yeah. So, and this actually, you'll see a lot of information on the slides that references Scaling New Heights, because this was actually a class that you taught at one of the breakout sessions at Scaling New Heights. So if you notice a lot of the Scaling New Heights branding, like Thrive, which was the theme of this year's conference, you'll notice that through here. So we just are repurposing her class for this session here. And real quickly here, somebody was asking for the handouts. You can go to our QB Power Hour landing page for all the handouts, which some of the details about the QB Power Hour webinars, of course, we do this every Tuesday, whether or not there's a holiday or not, but sometimes we do take off for the end of year holidays. But this one, we just wanted to make sure that we stay with the regular cadence of every other Tuesday. So upcoming, we're going to be repurposing one of Michelle's classes, which was using the cleanup and books review in QBO Accountant. So hopefully you can join us then. And then we'll have Bookkeep come on that's actually my son's birthday, August 12th, where we'll be managing multiple payment methods, which we were supposed to have this in May, but we've just been having some rescheduling issues because we want to have Dawn Brolin come on again to talk about how much she loves Bookkeep and how it's helped her with managing those multiple payments. So trying to get on her schedule has been a little bit of a challenge. But if you have, she's worth it. Yeah. She, if you didn't catch us last week or last time when we were actually live at Scaling New Heights, she was a great addition. She came screaming in on 2 wheels, fresh out of a breakout session to join us. So we really appreciate her joining us. We have our PDF of the slides, the recordings, the podcast is all available at qbpowerhour.com/resources. And of course, some updates that we want to let you know about on our website. We have upcoming webinars that you can add directly to your calendar. If you just go to the main homepage for qbpowerhour.com, scroll down to the bottom of the or scroll down to the section that talks about the upcoming webinars. You can just add them to your Google Calendar from there. And then we're also looking for to be able to have a QB Power Hour marketplace. One of the things that we've been noticing in the Facebook group is that a lot of people would love to be able to advertise their own services. So we're looking to have that on the QB Power Hour website. So we're looking to roll that out in the next few months or so. A little bit of housekeeping. Since it's just me running the webinar and not Michelle, and Carrie's just going to be doing a lot of the speaking, but we want to have a discussion here. Managing the Q&A and the comments is a one-man job for me today. So I apologize for if I don't get to address your specific questions. But if you have specific questions about the topics that we're discussing here today, put those in the Q&A. If you have regular comments or just want to chat, that's where you would use the chat for that. And then, of course, if you have the handouts, you can download them from the webinar archive as well as the handouts as well. All right, so we'll start off as a poll. And we just want to talk about one thing. This is not going to be a bitch session about the changes that Intuit has made, but how do you pivot or adjust from those changes? But as an accounting professional, and we'll launch the first poll here. As an accounting professional, what is your current feeling toward Intuit? And this is a multiple. You can choose many of the questions or many of the responses, right? So this could run the gamut from "I've had enough," right, or this is great, right, and everywhere in between. Like the first one, meh. Intuit does, no skin off my nose. But one thing that you noticed, Carrie, at the conference, because the absence of Intuit,
Oh yeah,
it kind of opened the
floodgates.
The door, kind of opened the door to looking at other alternatives in the accounting space. Would you agree with that?
It sure did. I mean, you couldn't help it. I mean, they were all, luckily, I mean, it was a good thing that they were all there, because typically they're not. So Intuit chose not to come, and they all came rushing in. So we have Xero, FreshBooks, Sage, NetSuite. I don't know. Accountant Suite. There were a lot of them. So, it just gives you, it might be time to look at alternatives. It's, it never hurts to keep a pulse on on all the options out there, because we're ultimately consultants to our customers, and we have to get the right solution for them.
Yeah. And I think, I've been so invested. I'm kind of in that. I'm so invested in QuickBooks. I'm kind of stuck with it, because trying to learn, the nuances of another accounting platform, that would just take, from my perspective, would just take too much effort, but I mean, I do understand, and you'll talk about some of the changes that have affected the accounting industry and the accounting community over the past 12 months. Just seems like another email comes out, every week. But and some of that has to deal with, Intuit's calendar or fiscal year begins August 1st, right? So some people don't realize that, and that would be kind of challenging to have especially something that's heavily invested around tax, right? So, TurboTax and the tax preparation software side of accounting professionals, to have your close of year be the December, to try to calculate that. So they have their fiscal year starts on October 1st, which is when they make a lot of these changes and announcements, right as you're coming out of tax season, and then having to deal with, okay, well, what does this mean for my business in the middle of my year? Right.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and end the poll. I'll share the results here. So it looks like a pretty good mix of how, but the most one is I feel like they're talking out both sides of their mouth.
I agree with that one.
Yeah. Especially as an accountant, right? Carrie, you would, what has been your experience that,
Well,
filter for PG-13 here?
yeah. So, I mean, they, when we first started doing QuickBooks and we got, in the Find a ProAdvisor, my business was launched with or without me. I was like, hello, here I go. And so then, as I moved through the ProAdvisor and then into the reseller channel, it was like I was ended up being coached into getting into sales, something an accountant normally doesn't do. But the whole time I've been hearing partners, we value partners, we value partners. And that message seems to be going away. So that's they say one thing and do another. So we have to, as a community, come up with ways and pivot and make sure we're still making bank, right? Cheddar, making cheddar.
Right. So, so we're going to talk about, some of the Intuit strategy, because that was one of the things that I noticed about your class when I took it, is that you talk a little bit about Intuit strategy. So when you look at Intuit strategy, some of these changes, as they're not so great for those in the accounting profession, they do kind of make sense to at least their strategy, so you can kind of see where they're going and make kind of sense of those changes, as you may or may not, agree with them, or it may not work for you, may not be a workable solution for you as an accounting professional, but you can kind of see where they're definitely headed.
Exactly. And I mean, it seems that once you understand that, it makes you, I don't know, it's kind of like seeing someone else's, but it's getting in someone else's shoes. So,
yeah, my favorite saying is if you before you criticize someone, walk a mile in your shoes, because that way, when you do criticize them, you're a mile away and you have their shoes.
Yeah, there you go.
So then we'll talk about capitalizing on the products that you already know and love. And I see from the, some of the chat here is that, they're kind of in the same boat where they're so invested into QuickBooks, to jump ship or move to something else is going to be a challenge. But then also we'll talk about, building your trusted support community. So let's talk about this. How does the Intuit strategy affect you as an accountant? So talk a little bit about Intuit's 5 big bets.
Right. So these are the 5 big bets. The first one that's a revolutionized speed to benefit is around their, artificial intelligence, and it's the technology piece of things that we don't really, we benefit from, but we don't really have a direct impact. The second one to me is a really important one where I kind of mentioned the talking out of 2 sides of your mouth, the connect people to experts. So we're feeling some pain around that as they're building out and trying to build their own and hiring some of us to be in their QuickBooks Live. When you read into the transcript, you don't really see as much as the Find a ProAdvisor as used to be there. So that's sort of a sting. But we are definitely, important in this journey. So that's where, we can get strong, and we'll talk about that as we go through the slide deck. Unlock smart money decisions. That's around a lot of the Credit Karma, doing the capital, doing the loans. They're getting more into the personal stuff. So we don't really dangle anything. We don't really benefit from that other, here and there. The next one I think is super important for us, really important, is the center of small business growth. I mean, we are, as a consultant and as our own business owners, I mean, it's extremely important. It's extremely important for Intuit that we see success, and they want to be their software as the center. So of course, if we bail, that doesn't help anybody, but they're a huge company. It's not like if one of us says, hey, adios, QuickBooks, they're going to be just fine. The 5th one is a really important one for them, but they seem to I'm not even sure where this one lands because disrupt small business with mid-market with QBOA. We all know
Yeah. Now,
mid-market.
before we get too far into that, QBOA is referring to QBO advanced, right?
And
Not QBO account, which I love the fact that they recycle their own acronyms, uh, just to keep you confused. But that's what they're referring to with what you see here as QBOA is as advanced, not. But I've also heard this is one of those. Speaking out both sides of them, they've also said that QBO advanced isn't there yet for mid market, but you look at all their marketing and they talk about mid market being the place for advanced.
But when we have a customer that's mid-market, if they can fit into QuickBooks, we put them in QuickBooks Enterprise Diamond, which a year ago they were touting as the mid-market solution. And now you don't hear much about that anymore. So they want everybody to go in this product, but you can't put a size 9 foot in a size 6 shoe. So they're definitely disrupting my business. And I guess you all can put in the chat if they're disrupting yours with this heavy marketing, because if you have a client that needs more than QBO can handle in any flavor, including advanced, you still have to keep them in desktop. So it's, they're disrupting my business. They're disrupting everybody. But this is another area that I think we can provide feedback, honestly. The louder you get, that's one area we can, but this explains a lot of their marketing. They're promising the world around those sales. So
let's just review a few of the changes. I mean, how far back did you have to go to compile this list? It didn't actually, I mean, most of these changes were in the last 12 months.
Last 12 months, maybe 2 years, and that's a stretch. So these are all, like Dan was talking about, these happen just as you come out of tax. I don't do taxes, but I still come out of tax season like, whoosh, and you come out and you're like, okay, and you kind of start to analyze, and then you start getting the emails and updates of what's happening. And this is when these things fly out. QuickBooks Live Bookkeeping is probably the oldest one on there. And you might even have some people that are in the audience that do this stuff. It was very disruptive because it felt like they were stepping on our toes. Desktop is not dead, and it's not, but it's that same two sides of their mouth, because we can still get it. It still works, but and QuickBooks Online isn't for everyone at this point until the features are there. So they say it's not dead. They say they'll keep supporting it. I mean, they're still coming out with new versions. What's your theory on that, Dan? When will it die? Because that's been the topic of discussion.
Yeah, I have wasted far too much of my time and energy trying to figure out what the end game is. But I mean, as you look at a lot of these changes over the past 12 months or so, a lot of them affect traditional desktop ProAdvisors, right? The full charge bookkeeper who really handles everything internally in their own firm or practice, right? Where the customer just never even touches their QuickBooks. Right. And that those people I think are impacted the most. Those that are the full charge bookkeeping practice where they run the payroll. Yes. Desktop ProAdvisor, the enhanced ProAdvisor for accountants payroll subscription where you can add up to 50 EINs. That was just a recent announcement where, that service won't be offered to new accountants needing that. Now, if you have an existing one, you already, you are, you're in, you'll be available to do that, until otherwise, right?
It's soon.
Right. So, I mean, there's no date in terms of when that's going to happen that I know of, right? It doesn't mean that there's not behind closed doors, not something that's being whispered around, but it's so hard to predict what is going to happen to, I mean, 3 years ago, who wouldn't, COVID wasn't even a mention, right? I mean, so a lot of that, I think COVID's been an accelerator or a catalyst to this. And, as far as the infrastructure of the online ecosystem, it was kind of there, but just not ready for all of the influx that is kind of driven in the marketplace with regards to a lot of people going virtual. But I mean, you can see a lot of these things, and we just want to kind of mention, the Who Moved My Cheese. That's actually a book that was written probably about 10, maybe 10 or 15 years ago. And as I worked for Intuit, they wanted everyone to read it. So I saw Donna Crowley. Maybe she remembers that phase of when working for Intuit, and they suggested that everybody read this book because, and the whole concept is, as you're, a mouse, right? And the cheese is usually in one area, and you always, as creatures of habit, you tend to, go to where the cheese is. And then guess what? The cheese gets moved the next day based on, things changing. So then you, as a mouse, you're wondering, well, who moved the cheese, right? So it's kind of ironic, I think, that both the mover of the cheese and the cheese itself is the same person, which is in this case what we're talking about is Intuit. But if you want to get the book, I have a link there for for checking it out. It is on Audible as well, so you can listen to that as well. Any other things you want to talk about in the changes here?
Yeah. So right. There's a lot of hits, I think, that have reduced the, kind of made people feel less valued in the ProAdvisor channel. Changing the wholesale billing option from 50 to 30 is a huge hit. The ProAdvisor support being weakened. I know that there's promises that it's better, but we have experienced it ourselves. Ending the payroll, the options for accountants to run payroll, whether it's IFSP or through desktop, is tough. I mean, if this is what you do for your business, you're forced at this point. You're forced to go to another solution provider for payroll. Which there are many. There's some things that assisted payroll we can still get as in the QSP channel. Your customers are getting set up with payments. I mean, there's every time we turn around, there's something that is making us feel it causes stress. It really does, and it can affect, depending on where you're getting your income stream. It can affect your income stream. I mean, we, as resellers, we get residuals for payments. So when a customer connects their bank account, boom, they get an instant payments account, and it's at a higher rate. So there's like chaos around all these things. And
one of the questions, and you mentioned this acronym QSP, and we'll talk a little bit about it.
Okay.
It's a QuickBooks solution provider. Janice just asked a question, and we'll talk a little bit more in detail about what a QSP is, because that's been part of your journey in the Go Team QuickBooks time thing with building your practice. So let's talk a little bit about this is Intuit's Q3, so their quarter 3 results. So it was basically last quarter for them, but not Q3 in a calendar quarter. But if you look at what was your takeaway about this information?
So they're basically, he's confident in his strategy and execution. So what they've been doing, which all those things that disrupted us, they'll continue to do, and including they're increasing their guidance for the next quarter. So whatever they predicted they're going to make, they're going to actually make more. So the way I interpret this is the price just went up again. So they'll make more money on that. And then, the changing these ways that we can make money, taking those away is another way that they can make more money. So anyway, yippee for us. It just doesn't sound like they are changing or pivoting. So we have got to follow, move, or repurpose some of our whatever. Pivot's the word.
Yeah. Not pivot like friends trying to move your couch. Not that kind of pivot. Adjusting
Right.
your goals based off of what you're seeing here in the direction that they're heading, because they're almost Intuit is almost creating its own destiny, right? I mean, I think that's part of it. They're seeing a lot of they're seeing an opportunity. Trying to use this as most delicately as as I can, but they're seeing this as an opportunity to transition. But I think the pain that accounting and bookkeeping practices are feeling is that infrastructure is not when we did those webinars with desktop features that are missing in online, it's clear that a traditional desktop ProAdvisor where they're running things inside of desktop, those functionalities are just not there. And Sarah made a great post on the QB Power user group about really just illustrating a lot of those things as far as the struggles that a full charge bookkeeper will have of the things that they can't do. I mean, there's no such thing as after the fact payroll when it comes to any of the QuickBooks Online payroll services. I mean, that is just a huge
gap.
Gap. Yeah. Thank you. But I mean, you can see as a couple people other mentioned, hey, this is maybe a good time to purchase some Intuit stock, and it's probably on sale right now in the little downturn that we're having. But they're still having growth, and their growth is kind of paying off on the way that they're moving, right? So how do you capitalize on that?
Yeah.
So here's where we're going to talk about what a QSP is, right? But first, let's look at the full suite of QuickBooks products and services, just on the QuickBooks side of things. Now you've got tax accountants and tax prep and things of that nature. But the things that you've seen, Carrie.
Right. So So as you all know, the tax side of QuickBooks, the tax side of Intuit is a whole nother world that doesn't touch this side. I highlighted where they're focusing, QBO and payments. So that's where they're focusing their growth and so on. And that's where you can focus and make money as well, except the cheese changes. So that went from the 50% a wholesale model to the 30%. And anyway, enterprise, point of sale, field service management, payroll. Okay, they have supplies. You can, as ProAdvisors, they're not accepting ProAdvisors to be solution providers anymore. But if you partner with somebody that's got a partner program, you can share in what they currently offer in commissions and residuals, which will change as of August 1st. They change things often. It's a lot to keep up with. But a QSP it used to be an Intuit reseller, and now it's QuickBooks Solution Provider. It's been a program. I've actually been in it since 2008. I think it was born a year or two before I started. A lot of the people that you guys probably see teaching at the conferences and stuff are members of this.
Don asked a couple questions about what we see on the screen here. Field service management. What is field service management? So
field service management is by Corrigo. It is their biggest customer. It's usually for construction subs. HVAC is their like sweet spot person to sign up for this. This is another used to be
It's a desktop.
residual
It's a desktop.
opportunity. Well, it works with desktop and QBO.
Oh, it does. Well, it's
Yeah.
QBO. Okay.
Yeah. And it allows you to send people out in the workforce to go to like repairing HVAC and tracking the time
So
and
they've got their field guys out in front of, customer facing individuals or customer interacting individuals. The field service folks can work in that app and they can live in that, and then it will send that information or whatever they're doing in there as far as back into QuickBooks, so that they're not necessarily needing a specific user of inside of their QuickBooks, because all they're dealing with is the customer facing stuff.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. So that used to be a residual earning opportunity, but that's grandfather. That's going to end. And
and then supplies, like what falls under the category of supplies?
Supplies would be, people still use checks, believe it or not, checks and deposit slips and the ones you can print and envelopes and W-2s and 1099s. So that falls under supplies. That's another thing they're taking away. So go find another vendor. We went, what was the one that everyone checks for less? Went and met with them at Scaling New Heights. Thank goodness for that conference and the timing of that in June. Yay. And yeah, so field service management, we may have to find one that can give us a residual program because we love those. QuickBooks point of sale we can still get commission on that. But that I don't know that they're pumping a lot of new stuff into that. So that's a desktop product.
So yeah, I mean, so as far as talking about a QuickBooks solution provider, when did you first join that program? Was it something you had to be invited to, or could you just apply? Or
in 2008, I had to apply. I had to pay like $1,000 to join. It was like an annual membership fee. You had to promise to go to their conferences. It was the first time I went to a conference, and it was in 2008, and I've gone to every one of them since. They no longer require you to pay anymore. They no longer require you to go to the conferences, and now they're no longer accepting new. I mean, I don't know, things are getting weird over there. We'll just leave it at that. So yeah, so I've been doing that, and it's a small channel. It's like just a few hundred people versus like ProAdvisors are in I don't know, it's 100,000 or 50,000.
Several hundred thousand.
Okay, several hundred.
Especially because it's it's free. And the QBO accountant. You are a ProAdvisor there, whether you actually
can't imagine
the certification or not. Which the certification is ending. Oh, it ended
June 30th.
Right. So now, if you haven't done your certification, you get to take the whole course
again. Yeah, and I can't imagine that anyone signed up for that for free as a company, but hopefully they didn't. But yeah, so the number of it's just a small channel. So it was actually funny. It was hard for me to find it. I was just trying to learn about enterprise and tripped over it. So I was like,
you found it by accident.
I found it by accident, and I found my people. I was like, where have you been? So I've been just loyal and very active in this program since 2008. So whatever the math is on that. And then
so they're not accepting any new applications, right? So just like ProAdvisor, there's different tiers in the QuickBooks Solution Provider channel, and then when they were right, you got those tiers based off of the sales, right? And that's
right.
Everything that you see in this QuickBooks product lineup. Anything that you as a QuickBooks solution provider sold through Intuit would have some kind of sales credit. They would associate some random number to all these subscriptions based on what they perceived as a lifetime value of that, right?
Yeah.
And then you would be in the different tiers based off of those sales volume. So when you're comparing that to a QuickBooks Pro Advisor, yes, you have those tiers and you have some of those discounts associated with that, or benefits with that. But your tiers were based off of sales goals, and then you were assigned a channel manager to kind of help you reach those sales goals. And one of the ways that they offered or suggested that you reach those sales goals, because you want to get up to elite, which is $1 million in sales, right? That's pretty tough order to do by yourself, right? So you ended up, a lot of QSPs created a partner program where traditional pro advisors could join your partner program, and then collectively your sales volume is combined, right? Is that the way it works?
Yeah. So we were coached, as we have, when you're in the reseller program, you get a rep, and we were coached that in order for you to grow, Intuit really wants you to get QuickBooks Online sales, and they recommended that we work with ProAdvisors, because a lot of the ProAdvisors love and work. And like you're talking about, the traditional bookkeeping, the QBO works perfect because you can run their books for them, and then they can tap in and hopefully not wreak havoc on the books. So we were able to bring ProAdvisors under us and boost up our sales. And so that was a win for everybody, because when they had the tiers, which they're changing that too, the tiers, things are just in I don't know exactly what's officially changing, but today we have tiers. But by getting into the elite tier, we're able to tap into the higher level of benefits as a reseller. So better together was our motto on that. So that worked out for growing our partner program. But
so so you have this term is thrown around there, like a tech stack, and some people will have a tech stack for their firm, but you're talking about a tech stack in terms of end users, because that's really who you're ending up talking to, is the QuickBooks user, and that's what you're focused on in your practice at CBG, right?
Right. Our focus is trying to put people in the right product and try to tune out the noise of the marketing, the heavy marketing. So we try to, because we're also in sales, because I was coached into sales and I love to earn residuals and commission. Residuals benefiting, better than commission. But at the same time, if the product works and I get nothing, then that's okay too. I don't prefer that. But, like, for example, Bill.com they have never been able to do anything where you get some kind of residual commission. You get promised and it never works out. But that's the product that I have working now. Is it perfect? No, but that's what we have working now, where we went around scaling. We got a couple of demos we're going to do to see if we can't replace it with probably a product that can do residuals, but it's all a process. Bill and Pay is an invoicing product that we actually use ourselves. And I highlighted it because we're in a grandfather program that does residuals, because vendors hate tracking the stuff. We recommend QuickBooks Time because, I think we all still love it, even though the way we, as a QSP, we don't really earn the money we used to. Oh, well. We now love ADP because the payroll options have gone haywire. So I just went ahead and said, let me switch to it to see how I like it. And I was actually pleased that the employees love the apps they get when they want to look up their pay stub. Easy Cloud is a hosting service that we use. We can also recommend Right Networks through our reseller channel, but it doesn't always fit the bill. There's a lot of, they only use certain apps. Easy Cloud's a lot more flexible there, and we use it ourselves. Webgility is one that we've recommended often when we're trying to connect up e-commerce to basically anything, right? Desktop. Bookkeep, we like to recommend for QBO stuff, for the e-commerce-y stuff. Timesheets is one that Dan found that is a good alternative to QuickBooks Time, taking a look at. They offer a residual program. I highlight it, or commission. Avalara is one that we're about to launch into ourselves. So we'll get to be end users of that. They have like a commission program for that. And then SOS Inventory is one that you've worked with that offers. So it helps when they offer, I'm working up to some of my slides coming up. But when I've highlighted it, it's when they offer residual program, which is nice.
All right. So now how do you vet all these vendors? Because
get a good night's sleep before you go to a conference. So yeah, so it's and I'm sure some of you will comment in there. How many times have you gone to one of these Scaling New Heights or QBC or Sleater or Accountex or what have you, and you get home, you're so excited about the shiny new penny, and you get home and you try it, and then it's a big flop. So you just got to ask, how long have they been in business now? And then is it a one-way or two-way sync? Especially with QBO, I know that it can be problematic, if they lose connection and stuff. I keep talking about residual program. We'll talk more about that in a minute, but forgetting the money part, really, number one is right fitting your customer and making it so that they're saving time and money, operating and running their books, and they get accurate financials. That's the ultimate goal. You do want to earn money along the way. That's where the Cheddar thing comes in. But find out, actually talk to customers and dig in. Don't just take the brochure's word for it and the $30 gift card you get for Starbucks. Find out more about how it works, and often use it in your own practice.
Yeah, that's definitely a good vetting point. Now you may not have the same nuances of your business as you would, like an e-commerce
Right.
platform like Webgility or Bookkeep. But Keith brought up a good point. Also, look at their reviews. Looking at their not just you want a combination of accountant reviews as well as end users, especially if it's something that the end user is going to be living in and not necessarily, you as the accounting or bookkeeping professional will be living in as well. But if you have both of those, both sides of the spectrum, I think that would be good as well.
Exactly. And, to me, just to highlight what the residual program, what I mean is if, to me, when you're dealing with subscriptions, the ultimate goal for a vendor would be keeping the customer sticky. And if you're going to be invested in it, if you just sell it and say, here, I want my $50 gift card and run, they could cancel in a month, right? So you're not vested in it. But if you get $5 a month for the next 5 years, you get way more than $50 in the long run. The vendor wins and you win. So residual programs to us, I think, are win-win. It keeps everybody honest.
Yeah, and the flip side of the coin, though, is they're just difficult to track and difficult to manage on both sides, right? Like you spend an hour a week tracking in just one of them, right? Just to make sure.
Yeah, that's very low, but yes.
Yeah, so that's a good thing to vet, right? Like how do they keep track of those things, and how can I keep track with you?
Yes.
So I'm going to launch this this next poll question. Are you currently using any other accounting platforms to support your clients? Are you QuickBooks only? Maybe you use FreshBooks. I think Donna mentioned, because I think one of the things that Intuit has been doing with their changes, their price changes, just their price changes that they've made over the last couple of years, it's kind of priced out a lot of the smaller businesses. Like even Simple Start is too much for a small business, a solopreneur, and FreshBooks kind of fills that gap. So that might be a good supplement, to your accounting suite of services that you offer if you offered FreshBooks and QuickBooks as well. But I've never looked at it to know the buts about FreshBooks.
Yeah. Someone was asking, what is Bookkeep? Can you?
Yeah, it's They're a good partner with us. They sponsored four webinars for us for the QB Power Hour. So if you don't know who they are, you will, because they'll be joining us throughout the year. But Bookkeep is very similar to, and I hate to use a competitor's name, but A2X is an aggregator of e-commerce channels, and it will send that information to QuickBooks Online as a summary, right? So Bookkeep works very well. There's some of the things that it does that A2X does not do, which is really nice. You can update existing transactions without creating duplicates. But that's the purpose, or that's the idea of Bookkeep. And Jason has joined us a couple times, and one of them was, the first of the year. So if you look at some of the prior webinars that we've had, was that Nebulous works with QuickBooks. That a lot of apps and companies will say they will work with QuickBooks, but what the devil's always in the details. What does that mean? And he kind of talks about some of the good, the bad, and the ugly of accounting integrations, and what the steps that he's taken to kind of address some of those. So Bookkeep's a really good aggregator and consolidator of accounting through e-commerce selling platforms and getting that information into QuickBooks.
And I think one thing that I really liked that when we did the demo with them is they have really a good way of not duplicating entries. Like they have where I can't say that about other apps. You may see, even QuickBooks, you'll see things come in twice. So I think that's a super cool feature.
Yeah, it looks like Karen in the chat posted a partner consultant for FreshBooks. So if you are looking for FreshBooks, there's a good reason or good resource there.
Someone also called out Wave. It does not totally suck for really small business. So this is where I love
the honesty that people it does not totally suck. That should be their slogan.
I love that the community, we're all here together. We're all kind of going through the same chasing the cheese.
Right. So talk a little bit about this. You can be an expert at something, but not everything. What do you mean by that?
So if you stretch yourself too thin, I remember when I became a ProAdvisor, I didn't know what in the world I was doing. I got certified and I filled out the thing and I started getting all these customers. And then I realized, oh, wait, I don't really like nonprofit. Why did I check that off? I checked them all off. I wanted everything. So
you on your ProAdvisor listing, you just, yep, give it all. I can do everything.
Everything. And then I realized real fast that there's a couple of them I really don't like doing. Real estate, nonprofit. Those were two that I was like, whoa. And when I checked off point of sale, I realized I didn't know it at all. I had to go in and absolutely, give away time to figure it out. But while I was going through my finding myself time through over checking those boxes, I figured out that I liked helping set up inventory. I like that flow and, watching. And I love that, especially with the desktop and the beauty of, one transaction and filing it all the way through. So that ended up becoming my niche, so to speak, niche, however you pronounce it. And I would take classes. There were, different kind of opportunities back then. We got to the advanced desktop. I busted through that. That was hard. And just be the best that you can be. And then going to these conferences or doing webinars and stuff, you can find people that you can find that nonprofit expert that you can say, listen, when you get those inventory ones you hate, you can pass them back and forth. So it made it obvious to me that I needed to focus, and not necessarily that a lot of times when we were in the reseller channel, they would try to make us do a really minor, like there was one person that their niche was selling cigars. And I'm like, well, that's real small niche. You need a wider, and maybe not just inventory, but I like, inventory and that, I like to support field service management or something like that. You can widen that net a little bit instead of just cigar inventory or wine. I mean, because that can really narrow you, or that becomes you become the industry expert. You just want to make sure you get enough support leads and sales leads that you stay in business. So, identifying that shouldn't be a hugely stressful thing. And the way I did it was I just looked back on my customer list and I thought, who did I enjoy working with? Who did I have the most fun with? We laughed, and they still send Christmas cards or whatever, season, whatever, holiday cards, whatever, what have you. But, people that you're still friends with, there's a reason that you connected with them. And it's probably because you enjoyed doing that project. This right-hand column, I think most of us are very guilty of this, not pricing enough for our services. And as we're going through this journey, this is an area I really need to highlight. If Intuit is cutting our ability to earn money, taking away stuff, and we can't replace it, and we're stuck with selling QBO at a lower price and putting it and bundling it, might be time to raise your rates to make up for that income flow. You can't, just because they lowered your ability to earn money doesn't mean that you're not worth. You might not have been charging enough. You may really be undervaluing yourself. And I think, doesn't Heather Satterley do annually? She'll do those. She does a review of what are you charging, and you get to fill out the.
Yeah, and that's I think in they're inside the ProAdvisor certification and the training. There actually is a section on advisory, and I think Heather goes through, some of those questions to ask yourself. To make sure that you are charging enough, pricing your practice. Because one of the things that I took away from this year's scaling was, the original hourly rate, billable hour model, gave way to value pricing, and now they're talking about this idea of subscription-based pricing for your clients. Very similar to like what you're seeing with all of the other apps. They're charging a monthly or annual subscription.
Right.
Do that as part of your services, but
put boundaries in of what that covers.
Guardrails so that you don't have the scope creep of what that happens to be, versus project based value pricing. But now you have an ongoing type of thing as well. But certainly is interesting to see how this is evolving as the marketplace and the climate is changing as well.
And I think Ron Baker's really good at that, and he was at our scaling, listening to some of his stuff. I think too, your mindset, like making sure that you need the confidence behind yourself to know I'm worth it. And if you have to fire a client because they don't value that, sometimes when you don't charge enough, they lose respect for you. So you might have to shed some clients as you build up and get those reviews. That's a big thing too. This is a really good problem to have, is you get a client that requires more than you can do. Like if I got the nonprofit client, this is where I was able to find someone I actually met at scaling to pass it on to. I was like, it was Carla. I said, Carla, I don't speak their language. I don't know the terms. I know that they could benefit from somebody that does. And I just did the introduction and stayed involved. I think it's important to stay connected. You can't, if you just say to your customer, hey, here's Carla's information, that you may not even give her a sale. You need to do that warm intro, maybe get on that first Zoom call and make sure, it's like dropping your kid off at daycare, make sure they're comfortable and they're playing with the other kids before you go, okay, it sounds like you guys are good. And then you do the slow fade and leave.
Right. Right. But that's really what you're talking about. When you get those connections, you're able to, cooperate, but also be in competition. What's the co-opetition, right? So
Yeah.
even though you're in the same field, doesn't necessarily mean you're in the same niche, right?
Yes.
And then we're actually only 5 minutes left, so we've got a few more slides to make
goodness.
up here.
Okay, so what do you do when you need help? We have lots of options. I think everybody in this audience knows what to do, and they're here. We know how
Right.
calling Intuit helps. That's why we're here. So we make these connections to get help.
Yeah, I already see that in the chat. People are asking, "What state are you located in?" Because now they're starting to build those connections just right here on the webinar.
See, it can happen. It can happen. And then what are some action items you can do today? Like I mentioned, we can figure out what your niche is, get all those certifications done. If you didn't do the June 30th, just get it done. It does help. Make sure your social media is up to date, and make sure you're asking for reviews. Build up that. That's what helps you sell yourself without even trying. People see and brag. I'm horrible at bragging. So is Dan. We got awards and accomplishments.
Yeah.
We just skip right over it. But do that. That's how you're going to build your confidence and demand more of your hourly rate. Increase your hourly rate, however that translates.
And then that's one of the things that I do. And it's how I kind of feel good about, like when you go kind of outside of the normal scope of your work is I'll do this, but I need a review from you. Right. Like that's like the give and take type of thing. So it's a great way to build up your reviews if you find yourself constantly in that position of scope creep of work.
Yeah, that's a good call out. And this is back in the day when I first started going to conferences, it was so exciting. I'm like, woohoo, I get out of town. You get to see people. There's a lot of alcohol, a lot. And this actually was the first conference I drank water the whole entire time. I was so proud of myself. But I wanted to make sure that I got the most ROI from from the whole entire the whole event, because it's expensive. It's expensive to fly, drive, hotel, the food, everything's expensive. And you don't want to come home and go, oh, I meant to do this, and this, and you didn't get it done. Sometimes it would take me a week to recover from just the sheer exhaustion. And this year I didn't, and I didn't get COVID, but that's a whole side note that we don't need to go down. That did help not getting that, but building these partnerships at these events and at and on this call, you can do that within the chat. Find people within, in the Facebook communities to collaborate and build those relationships. So, a lot of you are probably just one person firms or small firms, and you can feel bigger, and you don't have to turn away customers that come to your door. You can send them to someone here in this group.
Great ideas. So how do you make money in a vendor partner program?
So like we spent a lot of time, and we could hardly hit. We tried. We were going around those the vendor floor in scaling, just trying to ask them. I mean, I decided I used to walk around. I used to go and say, what do you do? And then I'd say, how, do I make something if I recommend your product? And now I'm like, we're like, do you have a residual program? And they'll no. And then we say it's important if you want, it really makes us, it is a benefit to us if you built one. So go ahead and let them know. We don't need to be shy on that. Dan and I are like, nope, we just said it. We want the residual program. And heck, we might even tell them how to do it, build it themselves. We know how to track it. If you're not in a QSB partner program, find one and join one. You're leaving money on the table. I don't care who it is, just find one and make it work. There's a number of them you can interview and find someone that you click with. You don't want to just, you want to find one.
With the first one.
Don't go with the first one, because there's a community within each one, and each one of them's different. It's like, where do I want to move to? So you want to find one that'll stick for you. Keep up with your sales. If you work at, I don't care how you do it, because that's what we've learned is over the years, I would say, oh, do you offer this program? Yeah, you've got to keep up with it. They're mostly sloppy about it, and you have to chase them. And until you can see that there's a consistency that they're paying them back, create your own tracking program. definitely follow up, because they'll pay you eventually, but you need to keep up with it yourself. And then over on the right is back to that. Are you charging enough? Making sure, with who's doing the billing with, are you purchasing QuickBooks Online through a reseller program where the end user's paying directly, or are you wrapping it in to your monthly fee? Are you marking it up? Are you covered for that little oops of it's no longer 50% off, it's 30%? Are you covering for sales tax and credit card fees? And are you marking it up enough, making it attractive enough for the client to engage your services, but covering your expenses? Keep up with that. Implementation with the vendor program, you need to figure out who's in charge. We did find there's a severe weakness in these programs. Like, everyone, they're Intuit really wants us off of enterprise for inventory, and they want us on QBO with the program. Well, we learned that there's a lot of options there. It's not the same thing. But on top of that, they don't have people to support these products. So maybe that becomes your expertise in your niche, because there's certainly room for finding experts for that. So maybe if inventory is your thing, go learn Deer, Fishbowl, what's it, SOS. There's tons of them.
All right. So we have some time for Q&A, but we don't have time for Q&A.
Sorry.
We have a slide for it. So we are a minute over. So I appreciate you sticking around for that. But if you want to learn more about about partnering with a QSP, I'll throw that in the last poll here. And we can send you some information. Carrie can send some information on her partner program and other partner, QSP partner programs as well. If you're not already, in a partner program, because they all have a gentleman's agreement, right? So
hot program.
They're friends, right?
We're friends.
You're friends with other partner programs, right?
Yep, we're friends, but we don't want partners that join all of them. You pick one, stay with it. And if you want to move away from one and move to the other, that's fine. You just let everyone know. We don't poach. We're not ugly like that, because we're all trying to make some cheddar.
Exactly. So this is a great way to do that with being a part of the QSP channel and finding others. And what you're doing is you're looking to create kind of like a partner program, right? Like where you have a suite of offerings that people can use or not use, depending on what it is that they're looking to do for their clients. And anywhere that there is
a good product and residual, we want to have it.
Right. But then the people that are in your partner program will be able to participate, even though they don't necessarily have to join these other partner programs as well. Like ADP, for example,
exactly.
You don't get paid anything until you get your third client. But going through you, it's
we've
the
already
first
got
client.
We've already hit that plateau. We've hit the goal, so we're good. That's where building this program was great, because it let us hit the elite tier in QSP. Same idea. We're growing. We're adding other vendor programs that might require higher sales. So with our partners underneath, we can hit those goals. And ADP is a great example. So now we have other payroll options than just the QBO payroll.
Right. Which is always good to have a plan B, right?
Yeah.
Where you're not.
We don't want all our eggs in one basket.
Right. You'll just end up with a lot of scrambled eggs.
That's right. All
right. Well, again, thanks for joining us, Carrie. It was awesome for you to come on and guest host for Michelle, so that she could enjoy her family. Her dad actually just turned 80 yesterday. So,
wow.
So she wanted to spend some extra time with her family and everything. So appreciate you coming on, and appreciate everyone even after the holiday. Joining us here today without little advertising. I think. This was probably the most well-attended QB Power Hour in the last couple months. So,
oh wow!
So that's pretty amazing that everybody's ready to learn how to get more cheddar when Intuit removes the cheese.
Exactly.
All right. So we'll see you next time. We'll be talking about using the cleanup and books review in QBO Accountant, which is QBOA, not QBO Advanced, QBOA, just to keep everything confusingly straight.
We have to put a little disclaimer on every acronym that we get.
Yeah. What does the A stand for? All right. And then we'll have managing multiple payment methods with our guest Bookkeep will be joining us in the first QB Power Hour in August.
Definitely
so appreciate you joining us.
Sure. See what that's about. I was impressed.
Appreciate you all joining us here today, and we'll see you next time on the QB Power Hour.
Have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed listening to the QB Power Hour podcast. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in our Facebook group. You can find those resources and much more at qbpowerhour.com.